Welcome to the Strategy Sherpa Show, a series of organic discussions between hosts David Chavez and a variety of notable business leaders centered around their most significant failures and how they handled those challenges, so listeners can learn from their most teachable moments and apply the lessons to their organizations. Now, here is your host, David Chavez.
Hey everyone, this is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and I have a special guest for you today, Michelle, a doctor. I need to make sure I put in doctor because she is actual doctor too, and she actually practiced. So Michelle May, and we'll get back to Michelle in just a moment. Just wanted to take a few minutes and remind everybody what the show is about. On this show, we talk about things we messed up growing our businesses, not because we want to rub our nose in it. It's so we can help others learn that failures are part of the game of growth. And so that's the really important thing we're trying to convey on this radio show is that not doing everything perfectly is part of learning and growing a business. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the things we have coming up on March 11th. Kane Pekovic, one of the coaches in our firm, she has a webinar on how to coach employees for top performance. And she's really going to be focusing on the change game, how to get people through change. So, and then on March 28th in Austin, I am doing a public scaling up workshop for the whole day. Myself, I will be doing it, and it is on the 28th in Austin. Come to Austin and enjoy the great weather right now. It's just beautiful there. So right now there's Southwest is there, so it's a little crowded, but on the 28th, it won't be as crowded. All right, April 4th, we have a webinar on improving your cash position with 7 simple key financial levers. This is with Warren Sager out of our firm, and he's going to be talking about business leaders' probably most important thing that they love to talk about is cash, or they don't like talking about it because they have none. But we're going to try to help you increase that. So, Michelle, nice to have you on our show. To welcome. So we were talking a little bit before break or before we started the show, and you shared with me that you actually practiced as a doctor for 13 years. That's a family doctor.
Yeah, actually 16 if you count my 3 years of residency training. So yes, I had a great, very, very successful practice, and I actually loved practicing medicine. I didn't leave that work in order to get away from it. I left it to come toward what I'm doing now. So
yeah, I'm going to say it's 19 years then, because 3 years of residency is like double the time, right? Because you guys didn't sleep during that time, right?
It felt like it. That's exactly right.
I mean, all my doctor friends I've ever had said residency is like a nightmare. You just wake up after the 3 years is over and you're like, okay, I'm a doctor now.
Exactly.
All right, very good. So you were a doctor, but why don't you tell a little bit about your background leading up to becoming a doctor and then what you're doing today?
Sure. Well, I was a psychology major in my undergraduate pre-medicine years, and then I went to medical school. So I always had an interest in the mind-body connection. And I also secretly struggled with food. I had an undiagnosed eating disorder, disordered eating, that I struggled with really from, college, high school, even middle school, and into medical school. And then when I got into my medical practice, I thought I would help other people with their issues, but I realized that many of them were having exactly the same issues with food that I was, and they weren't doing any better at it, and I wasn't very good at helping them with it. So that really led to me trying to work on my own relationship with food, finally healing that, and then wanting to help others. So for a while I was still in practice, I was running some workshops on my half days off, and I partnered with a dietitian, a psychologist, an exercise physiologist, and we developed a comprehensive program. And over the years, I just fell in love with this work and wanted to do more and more of it. And so that eventually led me to leaving my medical practice to focus on this work full time.
Yeah, and, I love that you're talking about this, and I'm going to ask you a few questions around your work because I know the people who listen to this show, a lot of them are business owners themselves, and a lot of them are starting or growing a business. And in the, as businesses go through various stages, our lives sort of change as those stages go on. Like at Assured Strategy, we don't believe in life balance. What we believe is life integration. How do you integrate? Because we don't really know when the chaos of business is going to come in or the chaos of family, because sometimes you have family that needs you. And now I have to integrate to that and I have to be involved in that. And I have to maybe not be as involved as I want to be in my business. So I have to flow with the world. And one of the things that often gets thrown out in these flows is eating healthy and being healthy. I know I probably struggled with it a little bit. I've been a little overweight for a while now. And I think a lot of the people you talk to are, and I'd say a lot of business owners, when you're talking to them about this, they will tell you that they're not eating very well, that they're not doing some things. And I try to talk to them a little bit about their health and how it relates to their ability to come in every day and be present, right?
Oh, so important. That's a great point. I think unfortunately most people equate health with weight. I do not. I think that they are two separate issues that may be related. And so when I'm working with my clients, I'm really focused on the behaviors that lead to health. And you've already referred to those. So whether you're making time to have a balanced meal, whether you're making time to move your body, how you're managing stress, sleeping, relationships, all of these things go into optimal well-being. I think the idea that someday you'll take care of yourself, or when your business is running smoothly, then you're going to finally make time for exercise, it just doesn't pan out. And of course, we all know too many people who lost their lives right at the time when they could have been enjoying their wealth. And I think that's a big mistake. So I'm a big believer in integrating well-being into your business life as well.
Yeah, and I love how you said that at the beginning. I don't equate weight to health, and it's funny you said that because one of my friends, probably I was probably about 8 years ago. I probably have been even when I was in the army, I had to go get a pinch test every 6 months because I was always overweight. But the doctor used to yell at me like, I don't want to pinch test you when you're 2% body fat because that's what I was at the time, and he would just laugh at me. But one of my friends, we were in Sedona and we were going to go on a hike, and he said, "Well, you'll be lucky to make it to the top," because he's looking at me. He was struggling. I was fine when we got to the top.
That,
So.
that's a great example of what I'm talking about. So our culture thinks weight equals health, and it does not. Our weight might be one indicator of our overall well-being, but for many people, you can live a very healthy lifestyle in a larger body. So if you're waiting to be thin to begin to hike in Sedona or eat in a more balanced way, you're missing a really big opportunity to take better care of yourself.
Yeah, it's great, great. Where are you out of?
I'm actually in Owatuki, a suburb of Phoenix.
Okay, very good. Okay, I thought you were in Phoenix. I just wasn't sure, and but thank you for letting us know. So on the Strategy Sherpa Show, what we love to do is talk about our businesses and talk about some of the things. But before we do that, I want you to talk a little bit about your latest book because I think it's really helping a lot of people. And so and look, everyone. We coach executives and help senior leadership teams structure and form their business so that they don't work in the business as much and they're working on the business. Okay. And so, like, our executive health and the way that we think comes from the food we eat and how we take care of ourselves. So, what Michelle's going to talk about a little bit is so important to us getting the results we're looking for, right?
Yeah, so I want to talk about the books really from a business perspective if I can, because I think that would be most interesting to your audience. So I ran these workshops. The company is called Am I Hungry? Mindful Eating Programs and Training. And I started the workshops. I ran them for a number of years on my off days for my medical practice. And then after a while, realized that we had really hit on something that was making a big difference and really wasn't available in the world. So I wrote my first book back in 2004 and developed a process called the mindful eating cycle. And that process has become the structure for all of my other books, all of my programs, all of my trainings, all of my keynotes. Everything I do is built around that structure. So my book series is called Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat. And I take that same mindful eating cycle and apply it to people who are struggling with yo-yo dieting. I have one for diabetes. I have one for people with binge eating disorder. And I also teach a class at Arizona State University, and I have a book for students. So I took the same model and applied it to different audiences, which is a great business model, right, David?
I love that you did that because the problems are a little bit different, and those nuances when you're reading a general book often get lost. And so when you're reading it, you're going, well, this doesn't apply to me. You're talking about a student in college. I'm not a student in college. I'm 50 something years old, or I'm 40 something years old, and this just doesn't apply to my body, right? And so that's where people get off a little bit and they go, oh, well, this information is probably for kids. And then they set the book down and you've lost that audience. So that's really interesting that you've done that.
Well, and it happened the opposite way. Most of my work was with older adults, middle-aged adults. And I developed my disordered eating in college and really had a passion for helping. And they didn't relate to the stories I was telling in the other books. And so I adapted those to what was real to them. So,
Yeah, I think my eating disorder happened when I was in the Army and eating green eggs that were brought out to the field. So it was
and probably having to eat really fast in a hurry, which is another thing that business owners struggle with is eating so fast they don't really taste the food or enjoy the food or notice their body. And so that's really what mindful eating is all about. It's not so much about what you're eating, but it's about why you're eating and how you're eating and the decisions that you make around all that.
Oh, I love it. I mean, because I can't tell you how many times I've had lunch where I order lunch and it's sitting there, and the next thing you know, it's gone, and I don't even remember eating because I've been doing four other things while I was eating.
That's exactly right. I'll send you a copy of Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat, David.
I was hoping you'd give me a free one at least.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
All right. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about your business or your business and some of the great things you've done. So some of those things that you messed up a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the mistake. What were the circumstances around the mistake, and then how you rectified that? Because a lot of times mistakes lead us to something even better, right? And so I'm sure that's probably what happened with you. This is a Strategy Sherpa show, and we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after these few messages.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey, this is Strategy Sherpa Show. This is David Chavez, and we're back. And I just want to remind everybody about our events, but also I didn't give the website, and I'm terrible at doing that. Sometimes I just forget. So assuredstrategy.com is where you go, and just click on the events tab, or you can just go assuredstrategy.com/events, and you will see everything there. And we're here with Michelle May, Dr. Michelle May. She's teaching us a little bit about how to eat healthy, but also we're going to talk to her about her business now, because Dr. May, I just want you to know that I love that you're coming on, because most of the doctors I've met over the years have a hard time talking about things they've done wrong because they think they're pretty perfect all the time. So I really admire you, and you know what I'm talking about. So, but I admire that you're coming on the show and talking about it. So let's get started. Why don't you share your what happened with everybody?
Well, so I was a practicing family physician. Unfortunately, physicians often don't get much education in business and marketing, which is interesting given that many practices are small businesses. So when I decided to start Am I Hungry, I went into it with a lot of medical knowledge, a bit of psychology knowledge, and almost zero business and marketing. So I knew that, and I took a lot of courses, I attended a lot of conferences, I hired some coaches, and over the years I developed a lot of business acumen, but I really was the prototypical solopreneur. I have only really had myself and one or two employees at any given time. And I worked with a lot of collaborators. I also license others to use my programs, and so there's hundreds of people who are out there who offer my programs, but they're not my employees.
Mhm.
So I think my big mistake, David, is that I really missed an opportunity early on to grow the business in a way that would have helped more people. And now I'm 61, I'm approaching retirement in the next 5 to 10 years. And my intention now is to find a partner that can help me really move this business, who has the leadership ability to move this business to the capacity that I know is possible with what we've created. So I guess for the solopreneurs out there, I've enjoyed a lot of life balance or integration, as you say. I've enjoyed an amazing career. I've helped a lot of people individually and trained a lot of people to help, but I'm not anywhere near what I could be. And so that's something that I think I wish I had really considered earlier on.
Okay, so you're hitting on one of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs have when they're growing their company. So you found something in your medical practice that was very needed in the world. And that's what you're saying, correct? Because you
Yes.
were looking at your patients, they're coming in, you're dealing with their bad relationships with food, and you're dealing with the health consequences of that.
Correct. And not always health, but in well-being in terms of life satisfaction and their ability to live their lives fully. And the solutions at that time just were not addressing that. In fact, my personal theory is that a lot of what's out there actually makes it worse, not better.
Ah, I love that you just said that because I feel the same way. It's like all these fad things. People ask me what my New Year's resolutions are all the time, and I go none, because I don't want to fail, and I take goals very seriously. I don't just sit back on New Year's every year and go, "Oh, these are the things I want to do."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's take a little sidestep, because earlier you mentioned that doctors have a hard time admitting failure. And actually, that is very true. It turns out that the perfectionism that I struggled with in my relationship with food was also the thing that helped me get through medical school and into my medical practice, and to a certain extent to grow my business as much as I did as a solopreneur. And so it's interesting that sometimes our greatest gifts have a dark side. And for me, that perfectionism was something that I needed to work on, both for my relationship with food, but also to allow me to make mistakes in my business and try things and not be concerned that I was failing. I don't even use the word success and failure when I'm working with my clients who are working on their eating.
Yeah, I love how you just said that too, because as I was saying, as a solopreneur, like you were, you said you had a few employees. I think one of the things that we do as entrepreneurs, what makes us a great entrepreneur, stops our business from growing, and perfectionism is part of that problem, right? Because we get obsessed with the perfection. We can't let anyone else do it because they're not going to do it right.
Exactly, exactly. And that keeps the business smaller than it should be. And I'm sure that was the core underlying challenge for me. I love a lot of the work that I do. And I'm gifted in visioning, I'm gifted in coaching and teaching and writing, but I am not the best CEO of my own company. Honestly, that is just the truth. And had I recognized that challenge earlier or been willing or able to address it, I would have addressed it before now, but I'm telling you, I've got a few more years left and I'd love to figure out how to resolve this problem and then be the consultant or the coach that helps move whoever decides to partner with me onto the next business. I don't want to leave this business when I retire. I think there's too many good things happening here.
Well, when I was owned my CPA firm and I had a client, he was the guy who first developed Mount Soledad in La Jolla, California. He actually developed that mountain, did the first development on that mountain, and he became a little bit of a mentor to me because I met him probably at 71 or 72. And you've talked about retirement a few times. That's why I'm telling this story. I asked him, I said, "Hey, George, when are you going to retire?" He goes, "Hmm." He goes, "All my friends that retire are dead." He goes, "So I don't think I really want to retire. I'm going to retire when I'm doing the largest deal of my life." And I go, "Okay." And he really called it because he passed away doing the largest deal of his life. And I think he died a happy man. So it
Well,
was.
it's interesting because right now we joke that we're pre-tired. You know, we're already living a life that I love. I play pickleball. We have a little vacation home outside the heat of Phoenix. You know, we love to travel. My husband is a professional chef. We cook, we eat, we love wine. We visit our children in their adult homes, and we have a great life. I am not waiting until I retire to start to enjoy it. And fortunately for me, because I resolved my disordered eating and have a great relationship with food and exercise, I'm able to do this fully. But I'm not waiting around. And I know that this business that I created really could go on long after I do. I want it to be something that can go on after I do.
Well, look at how young you look. And you said you were 61, and
Mm.
look at how young you look. And I'm sure your husband looks the same way. And why is that? Healthy eating, keeping yourself healthy, because that impact. I mean, I talk to people all the time and they go, how many bottles of water do you drink a day? 8, 10, maybe. That's pretty common. On a bad day, 6, and I can actually feel it. And they're going, I don't even drink 4. And I was like going, well, that's why your skin's messed up a little bit, things like that.
Right.
So, I don't know medically what all that's about, but it's very similar what you're talking about. So you made this mistake of being a control person, and now you're starting to open yourself up a little bit. And so what did you do to overcome some of the challenge that you had? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, it turns out that being a bit of a control freak, being a perfectionist, is a core problem for a lot of the people that I work with who have eating challenges because they are either in control of their eating or they're like, I'm on vacation and now I'm not going to control my eating at all, and they swing all the way in the opposite direction. So what mindfulness, my work is around mindful eating, which is conscious decision making. Mindfulness is not about controlling your eating or controlling your appetite or even controlling your weight. It's about being in charge. Being in charge means you recognize all of the options. You recognize your thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, opportunities, triggers, etc. So you're really in the present moment, recognizing what's happening right there, which gives you the opportunity to make choices. So the difference between being in control and in charge is that you're not trying to hold on by your fingernails and you're not just throwing it all to the wind to see what happens. Turns out that model works much better for business too, not just for eating. And it works better in your life because being a control freak in a relationship is not very healthy either. So I'm in charge of my business now. I'm in charge of what I love to do and what I'm really good at.
Mhm.
And I'm also in charge and responsible for finding a partner, a larger company, something that can do the things that I'm not either interested in or particularly skilled at.
Okay, very good. In that process, had the time to write all these books. Were the books a result of some of the work you did, where you were running into different challenges with different types of people?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when I was running workshops earlier in my business, before I even started training other people, I often had people in my workshops who had situations. For example, they'd had bariatric surgery, which is weight loss surgery, and they had never fixed their relationship with food. They were still struggling. I
Mhm.
had people who had diabetes and they were yo-yo managing their diabetes the same way they had yo-yo managed their weight their whole lives. I had people who had binge eating disorder, which is a more extreme form of what we would call emotional eating or overeating, compulsive eating, sometimes people will refer to it. And so I could see that the work that I was doing had application for all of these different audiences. I just needed to tweak and adjust the messaging to fit their specific circumstances. It's all based on the mindful eating cycle. There's a complete set of skills that everybody gets to learn. We have an app that we use, we have workshops, we do trainings, I do coaching around it. There were all these opportunities, but it needed to be adjusted for the specific person or condition we were addressing.
Oh, that's very interesting. You wrote these books and you're helping people understand the importance. And in the work we do, we call them patterns, right?
Mhm.
People get themselves into patterns, and you're talking about patterns right now too.
Absolutely.
It's habits that we've developed over time, right?
Mhm.
Like you said, in college, you actually probably developed your bad relationship with food.
Mhm.
Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't recognize is the pattern of disordered eating develops when we think that we need to follow somebody else's rules and do it perfectly. And then the only other option, because that is unsustainable, is to finally give up and go off of it. So I always joke, you're getting ready for the cruise, you're on the cruise, you're back from the cruise. I mean, it's this constant battle to be good or to feel like you're being bad. And mindfulness is not about that at all. It's simply about making choices.
Yeah. So let's stay with this right now, making choices and mindfulness about making choices. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back after these messages. And this is the Strategy Sherpa Show. This is David Chavez with Dr. Michelle May talking about the mistakes she made when she started her company. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey everyone, this is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and I'm here with Dr. Michelle May, and we're talking a little bit about her mistake. And I want to come back to this mistake, Michelle, because I think that this is the purpose of our show. I want to talk to you a little bit about what people can do, some like initial steps, what they can do to work with you, because I think that that would be important too. But I want to talk a little bit about your challenge, because it affects so many business owners. 80% of the businesses are never sold in the United States because they're ran by a solopreneur that doesn't get off the ground what they really wanted to get off the ground because they were controlling everything. So you're talking about that your obsession with perfection, control, right? Caused you not to scale right at first. You're starting to realize that. When did you have this realization? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we became a six-figure business relatively early, and I'm actually 25 years into the business. This is our 25th anniversary. We've experienced a tremendous amount of success. I am was a certified professional speaker, so I've been able to, reach people in various audiences, conferences, etc. We've trained over 800 people in 35 different countries to offer the programs I've developed. And, we've had books out really continuously for about 15, 16 years. So there's been a lot of success. And I think maybe that's been a little bit distracting to me, is kind of keeping all of these balls in the air, to the point that I really wasn't thinking until recently about what happens after I'm no longer interested or able to continue the business. And I'm a long way from that right now. I love what I do. I love a lot of what I do, but I'm starting to really think about that next phase of the business that I want it to go on afterward. So I've had that consciousness that maybe we weren't doing as much as we could be doing, but it's really coming to a head now as I think about this last phase.
Yeah, and I think about it like we had talked about retirement a little bit earlier, and you were talking about it, and I think you're thinking about retirement much the way I am. It's what life am I leading? I can still stay involved, but I want to do it a little bit more on my terms instead of the business sort of running me. I'm going to sort of be there and help, but not need to be active every day.
That's exactly right. And I think this is ideal for a buyer or a partner who really needs a figurehead, needs somebody who's well respected in this area, who knows a lot of people, who has been here in the field for 25 years. It's ideal as a business owner for me to continue, not to just hand it over and say good luck with that, but to really help the transition and make sure that the integrity of what I've created is maintained, because that's really important to me. I don't want to just hand it off and have somebody take what I've worked so hard on and turn it again. That's maybe a little bit of my perfectionism and control freak coming out, but the truth is we've been successful because our message is different from most everything that's out there, and I don't want to hand it over and have it become just some other fad diet.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you're saying that, because I think that people are becoming a lot more conscious that these fad diets just don't work, and it's probably better to do nothing or maybe very little than to do these yo-yoing up and down, where you're going up and down in your weight all the time, or going up and down in your health, I guess, really, because I think you're concentrating more on health than you are weight. I think there's a big
Right.
distinction in how you're saying it too.
Right, right. Well-being, it's not even, I mean, I think health, the word health and healthy has even become a bit of a euphemism for fad dieting. It's kind of used as a weapon instead of a tool.
Mhm.
So when I think about well-being, it's kind of what you were talking about, that integration of all parts of your life. Your career can be important, your family, your hobbies, etc., but it all has to be integrated. And so often people get so focused on whether they're eating good food or bad food, and they feel guilty and ashamed. And then they say they've already blown it and they keep eating because they're going to go back on their diet on Monday or on New Year's or whatever it is. And that is so ineffective. It's consistency and it's the ability to sustain those new behaviors that really make a difference.
Yeah, and I think that you have to get consciousness that you have to switch your pattern That needs to be the first step in the whole thing because, when we talk about this with leadership teams, there's a lot of different things out there, but we use the number and it's just a number. I'm not sure it's correct or not, but 85% of your mind is in patterns, right?
Mm.
Just running these patterns. And I have to move to the 15% consciousness to be aware of what's going on.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing with eating. So the
Mhm.
mindful eating cycle that I mentioned before is actually 6 decision points that most people make completely unconsciously or habitually. Why am I eating? When do I eat? What do I eat? How do I eat it? How much of it do I eat? And then where do I invest my energy? So that mindful eating cycle, the structure, it's not a diet. I'm not weighing, measuring, counting, or logging food, but I'm making conscious decisions. And so when I'm teaching somebody how to heal their relationship with food, it's really about recognizing, well, why do I want to eat in the first place? Am I even hungry, or am I just bored or stressed or, in a hurry? And then helping them recognize that the choices that they're making can really make a big difference in the way that they feel. So it's all about feeling good, not being good. The diet model is all about being good and following the rules. And of course, that worked fine with my perfectionism model, which I haven't completely given it up, but I'm trying to stay on the excellent side of perfectionism and out of the striving side.
Oh, I just love that. That was just perfect. So yeah. Interesting when you were saying that. Some of the stuff that impacted me while you were talking a little bit was, I was sitting here thinking, like, I can tell you right now how many times I'm hungry because I haven't ate for a while. I'm probably a little too long, right?
Mhm.
And then I just go grab something. And we even use that word. Can you go grab me something?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I'll give you one example of one of the tools that we teach.
Okay.
So the company is called Am I Hungry?
Mhm.
Because that is an entry point for consciousness. It's a place where people suddenly realize I want to eat. So learning to pause when you want to eat and say, okay, first of all, am I even hungry? Because a lot of times people aren't. They're wanting to eat for other reasons. One of my common ones was procrastinating, right?
Oh,
Sometimes,
goodness.
right? Sometimes it's for other reasons, but sometimes it's because you're hungry. So let's say that you notice you want to eat. You ask yourself if you're hungry. We teach a body, mind, heart scan to figure that out. And then the next question, if the answer is yes, is, well, how hungry am I? In your case, if you've waited too long and you're overly hungry, the thought process here is being really, really, really hungry doesn't mean you need to eat more than usual. It just means you need to eat soon. And it also means you don't want to eat faster than usual because you will blow right past satiety or comfort because you're in such a hurry to get your blood sugar back up that you'll go from being uncomfortably hungry to uncomfortably full. These are just things that people don't often think about, and just simply going through the patterns that they've been following habitually and helping to change those patterns makes lasting change. It's not a temporary diet. It's not something that they're doing as long as they have willpower. It's actually something that they are completely changing the way that they think.
Yeah, wow. I'm gonna do this. You said you were gonna send me your book. I'm going to invest my time and read the book, and then I would like to have you back on if you were open to that. And I want to do the whole show around my perceptions when I read the book. Like as
Perfect.
I was going through it, like what were the things I was getting tripped up on? What were the things that I was realizing? Because I think that would be interesting to share with the audience. And look, I think that the work that we do at Assured Strategy and the work you're doing there, from the executive side, um, brain performance is so important to grow your business because the magnitude of the problems that are coming your way and how you have to be ready to deal with them,
Right.
it directly ties to nutrition.
It does. And David, if I could add that too many people, when they're trying to heal their relation, or when that, let's say they think they have a problem with food, then they try to go on some restrictive diet. Then they're spending so much time and energy trying to follow the rules and what am I going to eat next and what did I eat and when am I getting, and they're distracted from their business and their personal life because they're thinking too much about food. That's not the way that it should be. You should be able to learn the skills and tools, and then it should be able to run naturally in your life. So I would love to come back and talk about how you perceive what you read and how it could help other business owners.
Yeah, because like when you were talking just now, I was thinking about it like when I do that, then over time that becomes another aggravation. And then that aggravation, I want to throw it away or move it away from me. So I just go, I'm not doing this. This
That's
is
the pattern. I call it the eat, repent, repeat cycle. I'm bad, then I'm good, and then I can't do it anymore, and I feel guilty, and then I do it again. It's a vicious pattern, as you described, that people often can't find their way out. And I believe we've found the solution to that.
well, our coach, Lisa Jane, LJ, we call her. She referred me to you to talk to you on the show today, and I have to call her after this and like tell her a huge thank you for having you join us today because the what you brought is a little bit of humility from a doctor, which is refreshing in itself because, in my CPA firm, I wouldn't even work with doctors because they didn't know what they didn't know. And it was so difficult to work with them. And I think that your insight on yourself and then wanting to help people with this real challenge of the patterns of food and the negative patterns we end up creating for ourselves around it and really helping them is really refreshing. So I'll look forward to read the book and give me a month or two, and then let's schedule another time for you to come back because I'm a pretty good reader. I read quite a bit. So
Well, and if there's anybody out there that wants to look at the mindful eating cycle, even as a pattern for how you might help address some of your clients or your customers' challenges, the chapter, you can download the first chapter from amihungry.com/chapter 1. Spell out chapter and the number one. So amihungry.com/chapter 1. You can download the first chapter, take a look at the mindful eating cycle and see the patterns that we're describing there because they really give people a real sense of how this could help them and what they've been doing in the past hasn't been working.
okay, Dr. May, we will have you back soon. Chapter 1, everyone, amihungry.com/chapter 1. And everybody get on and check that chapter out. And if you find the information valuable, buy the book and read it. I'll be reading it myself, and we look forward to having you back soon.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me, David.
Take care. We'll be right back after these messages. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey everyone, this is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We just finished up with Dr. Michelle May, and very interesting conversation. There's nothing like coming on a show and saying to everyone that your business is 25 years old and you've realized that early on you were a perfectionist. And so because you were a perfectionist, you didn't scale your company the way you wished you would have. I don't think she has any regrets. I just think that she's looking at it going, hey, I could have maybe impacted more lives. And that's what I actually felt while I was talking to her. She never said that, but I bet if I ask her that question without prefacing anything, she would probably come back and say that that's really what her issue is that she could have impacted more people. And I think she did touch on that, but not directly. So I just wanted to acknowledge having her on and being willing to share that with us. I think a lot of us are the same way. When I talk to business leaders and I'm sharing with them the growth of their company, I often say the same things that get us to start a company and make us successful at it: discipline, perseverance, focus, working long hours, doing all the things we have to do to get a business up, the perfection of doing it perfectly is the same thing that stops our business from growing over time. And if you think about that, that's just stunning, because we're such perfectionists, we can't grow it because we can't entrust anyone else to do it. This is a realization a lot of business owners just won't admit to themselves, and she admitted it to herself that I'm a perfectionist and I stopped the company from growing. So I think that I have a lot of admiration for people who do that. When about 16 years ago, when it was probably even more than that now, but about 20 years ago, when I was growing my CPA firm, and I had the realization that I was the one stopping the growth because I had to be in the middle of everything. It really changed the way I approach things and how I approach it. Now I'm starting another company. I had to become a control freak or a perfectionist at first to get my time, understand what I was doing, how I'm going about doing it. That's when I started Sure Strategy. Now is the time for growth and me to let go of some things. It doesn't mean I'm going to let go of the way things are done and the perfection of trying to help our clients the way we do. But it does mean that I'm not going to say that my way is the only way to do it. We have a lot of great coaches at Assured Strategy, and it would be a shame if I didn't allow some of their talent and their knowledge to come into our company and help advance our company so we could help more clients scale their companies faster. And so it's really interesting. I think that it's also very interesting, and we're going to do a whole show with her just about how to really get the executive mind in the right place so we can start to admit some of these things to ourselves, but also so we can perform the way we want to perform every day. When you talk to business owners, they'll tell you that they want to sell their business someday for a lot of money, but they don't have an objective of what a lot of money is. They don't know when they're going to sell their business, or they don't have a date. They just say, I'm going to sell it. Now, look, I know that a lot of business owners want to keep their businesses and they don't want to sell them. And that's pretty common. And that's probably a lot more common than people actually think. When I talk to a lot of business owners, I ask them, do you want to sell your company? And they go, not really. I sort of enjoy what I'm doing. But if I'm enjoying what I'm doing, should that stop me from still scaling it and making it fun to learn the next thing? So I think the people who really want to scale their business really have a thirst for learning, but not just learning for learning's sake, learning to apply new things in their business, but not so many new things. It takes everyone's focus on what we're really doing. And how I usually talk about this is, what is the most important thing in your business? And to me, I have people say, well, the financial results, yeah, that's the result of the activity. And I think that the activity, and we're talking about this in the leading and lagging indicator sense, lagging indicators being the results of what I'm doing, the profit of my company, not the revenue, the profit. And then the leading indicator is, what is the activity that gets me the result? And if you're thinking about this on a macro level, how I think about it, the activity that gets me the result in my company, the activity is actually focusing on my core customer and really trying to make sure that I'm delivering what I'm promising I'm delivering. And if I promise them everything, I will deliver nothing to them. Now listen to what I'm saying. So you have to really figure out what I'm not going to do well for my customer, as well as what am I going to do well for my customer. So focus on the result of what you're trying to deliver to your customer, and the result of profit will be there as long as I'm not making bad decisions with money or with resources in my company. And this is where a lot of small business owners get themselves in trouble. And a lot of people who really want to scale their company, they're chasing too many things at one time, eating up the resources of people and cash. And so cash is the thing that allows me to have a strategy. Debt on my business does not allow me to have strategy. And I'm not talking about strategic debt, because I want to make sure that if my internal rate of return is better, if I borrow the money and expand, that could be a strategic debt. But debt just to have debt because I'm mismanaging the company, running up credit line, things like that, that's bad debt, and that causes me not to have a strategy. So I admire what Michelle was saying. I really can't grow a company if I'm going to be a control freak and I'm going to be a perfectionist. I have to start to let things go so we can help more people. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. Get on assuredstrategy.com and look at our events that we have coming up and learn from some of our other coaches inside of the firm. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. This is David Chavez, and thank you for joining us today.